South Central Louisiana Technical College, and with him is Dr. Natalie Porter, also Chancellor of South Louisiana Community College. Would you like to stand for recognize, please? Mayor Raymond Harris. Kevin Wiseman with our Parish Council. Mayor of Morgan City, Frank Boone-Brzezowski. Mayor of Berwick, Bruce Ratcliffe. Mayor of Baldwin, Mayor Donna Lancelot. And I apologize if there's any other dignitaries out that I may have forgotten. Please stand and announce. Other than I think we have gotten everybody. Okay. Oh, and we also have Kbze running for Parish seat. Thank you guys for being here. So today's luncheon sponsors are Hampton Inn & Suites, Test Action Clinic, and First National Bank of Good Rep. I want to thank our sponsors. This is how we get things going here. We need sponsors to help us. So let's take a few minutes to hear from some of our sponsors. Mr. Bob Harrison with Hampton Inn & Suites, please come up.
Thank you all for being here today. It's good to be on this side of the table, okay? Not in Joanne's seat over here. Thank you all for being here today. The Hampton Inn Suites has been around for 7 years now. This past year, 2016, we just got awarded the Circle of Excellence, which is the top 10% of hotels in the United States and Canada. Approximately 39 hotels. So Morgan City made the map, okay? We appreciate y'all. And I'll turn it back over to Donna.
Thank you, Bob. Our next sponsor is Ed Hanagriff with Test Action Clinic. So just take a moment to talk to you about what they do.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today on behalf of Dr. Beryl. He's actually in Washington, D.C. today. I actually all week working on some issues. So we just want to thank you guys for the support. And we want to especially thank the people to my right. Couldn't do it without all of their hard work. So, and also on behalf of Leadership St. Mary, if your business isn't part of Leadership St. Mary, become a part. I know Senator Bret Allain does a big part of that, and that's one of the highlights when you get to go to the Capitol. And if you don't know anybody in Leadership St. Mary yet, put someone through it. It's an amazing thing that can happen for your business. And I just thank you guys. Look on Facebook for the Chamber and the Leadership St. Mary and everything else, and to get more information. Thank you.
Our third sponsor is First National Bank, and Mr. Kinston is here. Will come up for a moment. Oh, that's not also.
Keep this short. Thank you very much. First National, proud to be a part of the chamber and in growing. So we'll be opening our new office in August in Morgan City, Louisiana, supporting the growth of St. Mary Parish. Thank y'all.
So we appreciate all your support and everything. So at this time, we're going to honor some very special guests today that have been around St. Mary Parish for quite a while doing business. First is the J.M. Dairies Company for 140 years of doing business. And at this time, Mr. Glenn Mice will come up to the podium to receive a flag.
Thank you all very much for this award. A lot of the beer gears have been here 140 years. A lot of them were born and raised in St. Mary Parish. We don't have any living here today. They live all over the country. There's 136 stockholders, all family members. And today they own about 300,000 acres, hard to imagine, in Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. But this is where we started, right here in the sugarcane business. And we're gonna hang this plaque in our office for the next 140 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Our next plaque to present is going to be to Thompson, Smith and Leach Insurance Group for doing business 30 years in our parish. Mr. Craig Thompson, Scott Thompson, and Susan Leach, please come up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Craig Thompson, President of along with Susan Longfellow and my son Scott Thompson. We'd like to thank you for this recognition. I'm sorry our other partner, Jill Abear, can't be with us today. She, as many of you know, is fighting a very courageous battle with cancer and winning the battle. So we're very proud of her. So we want to thank you for the recognition in our many years of business here in Franklin. We've been members of the chamber for many, many years, and the agency actually goes back long before 1987. Jill's family, her father started an insurance agency in the 1940s. My family started one in 1965. So we've been around for probably over 50 years, I guess, combined. We joined forces in 1987, and that recognition is for that entity that we created there back in 1987. But we've enjoyed being a partner in the chamber, enjoyed being a part of St. Mary Parish. We were all born and raised here, and very thankful to be part of this community. Thank you for the recognition.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of you for still doing business in St. Mary Parish. Joanne?
The speakers for today's legislative breakfast will be Senator Bret, Allain, Representative Sam Jones, and Representative Beryl Amedee. Please hold your questions until all speakers are finished. Let's welcome the first speaker, Representative Beryl Amedee.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here among friends, and I'm excited to say that after a year, I feel like I can call you all friends. I hope you feel the same. This week is the pre-file deadline for the legislative session that starts April 10th. That means that any bills that we want to propose that are not directly affecting the budget in this fiscal legislative session have to be filed by the end of this week. So these last 2 weeks or so have been quite a scramble as we try and put the finishing touches on bills and polish up the wording before we actually submit them. As of yesterday, there were, I think, 197 bills already proposed, but I really expect there's going to be about 1,200 by the time it's all said and done. So, what are we going to be facing? Well, I have to tell you, I tried the best I could to get some legislation drafted that would resolve the issues that we're having with gated canals and navigable waterway definitions. And just by drafting a bill, I got many, many phone calls. So I hate to have to tell you that I believe the real solutions to this problem are probably a few years away. But at least I see that we've gotten people to come to the table and begin dialogue. So that's a good thing, because nothing's going to happen if we don't all come to the table and try to find some solutions together. The bills that I'll be proposing this year are, that I'll be pre-filing, have to do mostly with statutory dedications. As you might know, we have 386 of those, and a bill that I drafted yesterday would take care of at least 47, but staff has been working overnight, and I think that they might have had to pull a few out of there. So this morning when I get to the Capitol, I'll find out exactly how many the bill's can handle. But it's a start. There will be many other bills concerning the statutory dedications. I'll probably be co-author on a few more, but I don't want to bore you with those details. Since I have to head to the Capitol shortly, I won't be able to stick around for question and answers, but you do know that you can call me anytime, send me emails, and or just catch me when I'm in town, because I love to hear from you. In fact, I cannot do my job unless I hear from you, so please be in touch about anything that concerns you. Any bill that you see proposed that you love or hate, please let me know, just in case I haven't seen it. I have to tell you that the report that I got 2 weeks ago was very disturbing. I wish I had some glorious, wonderful news for you, but instead I have some kind of depressing news for you. And that is that the oil industry appears to have begun recovery everywhere except in Louisiana. And the oil industry leaders have cited 3 reasons for that. Number 1, let me start from the bottom. Number 3 is hurricanes. We can't do much about that, and it's really not something that singles Louisiana out, because we share the hurricane problem with the entire Gulf region. So that doesn't really put us at a disadvantage compared to our neighboring states. The second reason they cited was the completely unpredictable state budget. That does kind of single us out among the Gulf states. Not that other states don't have budget issues, but you know ours are big right now. We're working on that. The number 1 reason that they cited, though, has to do with legacy lawsuits. That puts Louisiana at a very unique disadvantage among our neighboring states. So unless or until our governor chooses to stop pursuing the legacy lawsuits that are in play right now, the oil industry leaders have told us that they can't seriously consider coming back. So right now, they're talking to Texas and Mississippi and Alabama. And so this is a major obstacle for us. So if you have any sway with our governor, please let him know that we really need industry to come back. In fact, the entire Gulf Coast depends upon it. And if you don't have any sway with the governor, if you're a person of faith, just go over his head. The scripture says that God can turn the hearts of kings. He turned mine, I'm sure he's turned yours. He can turn our governors also. What else will we see this session? Well, even though it's a fiscal-only session, there will be a variety of other bills that are proposed. There's already talk right now about equal pay, minimum wage, and pay secrecy. And the governor's got a package of bills that I'm expecting to be proposed. And there's talk about, I've been asked to move on to the Labor and Industrial Committee, because I would be a no vote on many of his proposals. It seems that we don't really have an equal pay problem, as the equal pay lobby is trying to promote to us. What they're doing is they're taking the average pay of all men in the state and comparing it to the average pay of all women in the state, and they're saying that the men are making more than the women. The women are only getting 66 cents on the dollar compared to the men. I don't disagree with that. That's a statistic. We can check that out. The problem is you don't qualify when you take all the men's pay and all the women's pay, and you don't look into what fields they're in. For example, there are many, many more men who are engineers. There are many, many more women who are teachers. Teachers don't get paid the same as engineers. Now, we can discuss that some other time, but as far as just the equal pay argument, you really can't compare. So what we really need to do if we want to resolve the unbalanced pay between men, the population of men and the population of women, what we'll have to do is encourage more of our young women to pursue training and education and jobs in fields that traditionally pay more. So as long as we have many, many women who are heading to jobs like cashier and daycare worker, we can't compare that to the men who are heading for jobs like welder and architect. So you see where the unbalance is? So help me to work on that. I'm going to have to take off so I can get to Baton Rouge on time. Please be in touch with questions, comments, complaints, or encouragements. I'll take both. And thank you so much, business leaders, for the job that you're doing. For every ribbon cutting that I've been to recently, that's a celebration. And for these businesses today that were recognized for longevity, thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Representative Amedee. Our next speaker will be Representative Sam Jones.
Thank you, everyone. Before Representative Amedee leaves, I want to acknowledge that I agree with her. The fault we have with the state budget right now is due to a governor. It's just not this one, it's the one that left office last year. We're still suffering the general hangover, the destruction of the state revenue stream that he just basically destroyed. I would like to remind everyone that when Governor Blanco left office, she left a $1.4 billion surplus, which he ran through in a matter of about 10 months. And it's just been downhill since. The first year and a half, I tried to work with that governor, and each time he came up with something new. When you did the add out, subtraction on it, it just didn't make sense. By the end of this term, even the Republican caucus in the House had turned on him because I think everybody else knows the mess that was there. This governor inherited that. And it's still a mess. I do appreciate Representative Amedee. Governor Edwards is a person of faith. I know that because I lived with him for 2 years when he was in the House. We were roommates, and he prayed often, and he prayed even when he didn't think anybody was watching. So I pray for him, and I also pray for Governor continued success in his life. I want to start by recognizing Dr. Natalie Carter, more specifically, who's here today, who's the Chancellor of South Louisiana Community College of Lafayette. And for those that don't know it, our Young Memorial and our campus here in Franklin, which already is part of South Louisiana Community College, Young Memorial has now been folded into the overarching entity known as South Louisiana Community College. Dr. Carter, would you stand up so everybody could really get to see you and know you?
I am standing.
Dr. Carter is very prolific. Got to meet her not long after she became chancellor. She's been to Franklin a number of times. Now she'll be going to Morgan City a number of times. Basic structure, and I hope the chamber has her back at some event very soon to talk about the future of getting part of that consolidation work. I know the Parish Council's been doing consolidations a lot, but I also need to mention that we got consolidated upon this weekend when we found out that petroleum helicopter is likely leaving our parish. We can spend a lot of time consolidating and saving a few dollars in our sewer and water districts and stuff. But Mr. President, we need to do something to make sure that we don't get consolidated out of business by the people that are having to do the same thing, because the demand in the offshore oil industry and all that, we just know what's happening to it. We've discussed that before and recommended that we do something. I want to say something else about the structural considerations in our parish government too. It is very difficult for a part-time parish president to spend the amount of time necessary to go fend off the closure or the vacating of a company from the parish. Well, I think we're the only parish in the state that has a part-time parish president. Is that right? The only one. And I know we talked about that collectively in St. Mary Parish over the years. And when the people who wrote the original charter had an aversion to having a full-time parish president, maybe at that time it made sense, but it doesn't make sense anymore. And I think we really should visit that. Because over in Terrebonne, Gordy Dove, who was in the house with us for the last 12 years, is a very prolific parish president. He works really hard. He's at it all the time. And he's very business friendly, and I don't know what he had to do with maybe the consolidation of petroleum helicopters, but my understanding that it's gonna be consolidated into Homer, where they have a very fine operation there. And maybe, Mr. President, it's not too late, you know, I don't know if you've made calls yet, and I know the mayors have talked to me. I think we need to make an effort at least in the chamber as well. We need to let them know this, and they're important. I mean, we can have some wins. We have Metal Shark that came into the parish, which is a great victory. But then if we're losing something on the other end of the parish, it doesn't help. I mean, it offsets instead of us getting ahead. What I can tell you about, what I thought I could tell you about more specifically right now, I can't, because Governor Edwards is not going to make his proposal known entirely until this afternoon at 1:30. But the biggest item that's getting the most oxygen is the gross receipts proposal, which is basically a revenue neutral proposal that that the state of Texas and the state of Ohio, state of Washington, most recently the state of Nevada passed it, and they're implementing it now. And what it does basically is, in this particular proposal, unless it changes between now and lunchtime, it gets rid of the corporate income tax entirely and the corporate franchise tax, which is basically what Texas and Ohio does. And it seems like the Ohio model is what he's working on more closely. And so why would we do that? The reason is this. Tax exemptions that have been acquired over the years by a number of corporations in the state today carry an NOL value of $93 billion. That's $93 billion that we owe in tax exemptions against any liability that any corporation in Louisiana has and chooses to use. Our corporate income tax collection continues to dwindle. That number continues to get bigger. The franchise tax, the deficit is $21 billion for a net total of $115 billion that in effect we have on the ledger that we owe to corporations whenever they choose to claim it. On top of that, 89 of the 200 biggest companies in Louisiana not only pay no income tax, we actually write some of them checks back. For example, the big industries on the river, a number of them big national industries, some of the most profitable in the world, pay no taxes and get checks written back to them to the tune of $17 million, $18 million, some $4 million. And there was a time when those exemptions meant something because they had jobs attached to them, the creation of jobs attached to them. That's no longer the case. But stop and think about it for a minute. $115 billion. We collect, I think, about $8 billion a year in state taxes. Most of the budget, or roughly half of the state budget, comes from the federal government, and some of it is those statutory dedications that Representative Amedee was talking about. If we actually were able to, and we're not, because we're at $400 million deficit this year, we have a fiscal cliff next year of $1.5 billion, but if we were able to peel off $1 billion a year and start paying down that backlog, it would take 115 years for us to pay that off. So it's come to the governor's sense, and mine as well, that the corporate income tax program is just not working. So rather than carry this continuous liability which grows every year while the tax base that it comes from diminishes every year, the gross receipts tax simply does this. Whatever products you have that you sell that go out the door, in Ohio, they tax it at 0.26, roughly one quarter of 1 cent, which is in another way, I guess, a sales tax, but it has virtually no exemptions, or very few. It's a widely collected tax, but it's really small. The more people that are in the pool to pay it, the rate comes down. That's logical. That's what he's working on, and we just have to see what those numbers are. The people that's gonna fight it the most are the people that have the most lobbyists, the highest paid lobbyists, and the ones that have all the exemptions. And I hesitate to name some of them. Not that I think that they'll come and try to shoot me, but when you name them, they go to work and they work even harder, you know, and it just seems like it would be fairer to you. I do not believe anyone in this room is one of is in that category. These are the biggest of the big. And I have never believed in punishing anybody for being successful. I just think the tax system ought to be fair. And by the way, Representative Amedee, I'm sorry to hear, I am for equal pay, for equal work for women. I mean, I don't understand the thinking on that. My mother worked at minimum wage and raised 4 boys, and it was hell, it was tough. And I know there are a lot of women out there working 2 or 3 jobs, and they don't make what some of the men make, and that's just not fair, that's not right. And I don't really care to see a whole lot of lawsuits about it. We just ought to do the right thing. Our daughters should be able to make what our sons make if they're doing the equal work. So I just needed to say that. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm proud to say that. The other thing that we're looking at is a minimum corporate tax. Oh, before I leave, Senator Allain will get on. In Ohio, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's something like 250,000. If you don't have gross sales of 250,000, you're exempt. I think we probably should exempt it even higher than that here. $500,000, maybe even $750,000, and just have a license on the front, a minimal cost license on the front. But again, the whole point is to try to equalize, widen the base, lower the rate. A minimum income tax would be the only other alternative corporate income tax, which would have some of these companies not being exhibited. And look, some of the things they do, they'll buy a piece of equipment, they'll run it through the books in Louisiana, they may even drive through Plaquemine with it on the way to Texas, and then they write it off and we pay for it. That's what happens. I mean, that's what happens. And it's so hard. I mean, you'd have to have more auditors than Donald Trump wants to put on the border with ICE agents to be able to tackle that. And you know, it's just really difficult, if not impossible. The other thing that, and I may very well put this bill up for the people to vote on. It's high time that we have a 20-whatever century we're in, the 21st century, on our way to the 22nd century. It's time for us to have a transportation system that matches the demands of the speed of business. And speed in business is a coefficient of success. If you have a terrible transportation system, every hour that truck or that train or whatever spends on the highway that it doesn't have to spend costs something like $20 million. And there's a coefficient in there that we're not paying attention to. Now, I do not believe that 17 cents, I'm Representative Steve Carter, a good friend of mine from Baton Rouge, is going to put that up. And once the legislature to vote it in, which we can do without putting it on the ballot, without coming to the people, I don't think the 17-cent gasoline tax would work. I don't think the people want that, and I surely wouldn't vote for something that we don't come back to you and let you approve or disapprove of it. I was thinking more along the lines of hoping that temporary sales tax goes off the ballot, goes off next year, and is replaced with something, hopefully some recovery in the economy, and that we could put a half of that penny on the ballot along with 7 cents on gasoline, and committing 1 penny of that to local governments. Now, before I give the parish president a heart attack, let me just say this.
Parish gets transportation, parish transportation fund tax, and you get royalty road fund. Municipalities get nothing. And having been a mayor for 22 years, that always galled me that we didn't get anything. And consequently don't have a source for our road repairs. And constitutionally, local governments are prohibited from taxing gasoline. So I think something that goes to the ballot that has a 0.5% sales tax and 7 cents with 1 penny going 70-30 or 60-40 to municipalities would be fair, and it would be good for everyone. I don't think we've done many roads in the last 15 years. We've been very successful in my time on the transportation committee. I think we've been very successful in taking care of state roads and those issues. The $12 billion backlog on roads is not here. It's in a whole lot of other places, but we stepped up pretty good. So that's my idea, to send it to the ballot. We'll see later today what's going to happen. Last comment about our parish, and I'll sit down and let Senator Allain correct me. You know, he works over in that country club we call the Senate. Over in the House, which I love the House, it's a brawl every day and the outcome is never certain. That's how it ought to be. It seems like, I never thought I'd say this in my lifetime, but it seems like the western end of the parish is more stable right now than the eastern end of the parish. Now look, I've worked in the eastern end of the parish many years, both as a deputy in the oil field for a while, and I can remember a time when bumper to bumper traffic, coming out of McDermott in the morning, going in there and everything else, and it breaks my heart to see that it's just not there anymore at that level. However, I would say that we have some very good captains of industry there that stay ahead of things, and they're morphing into other things. What seems to have happened, with a little help from us, but mostly on their own, that they have been really good at structural fabrication over the years. They have maintained their best workers. They have morphed into boat builders more than anything lately. Conrad Industries building boats, Swift ships, has some contracts. Metal Shark, we were able to get Metal Shark to come in here to sing there. They employ a lot of people. Gulfcraft has just been a staple of our area for years and years and years, and do a great job getting work ahead and keeping work coming. Palomar, New Industries, just to name a few. They are on the cutting edge of making the changes that we need to do. Not to abandon the oil field, not to abandon it. We need to do that. We need to be here to support it, and we do. Some of the service companies there work in the fracking industry. They send their materials there. Look, some of our supply stores in Morgan City send stuff to the Middle East still. But the fact is, you know this probably as good as anyone, that they can go into the Permian Basin and they can frack for oil and make money at $35 a barrel, and we have to have $65 a barrel for a year and a half consistently before Shell or BP or Chevron's going to go spend $6 billion on another big platform out there. We're fooling ourselves. It's the market. We are a victim of our own success. The ingenuity that has come along, the American ingenuity that has found a way to frack and get after that hard to get natural gas and oil has found it. And each time you think this is the most prolific place they'll ever have, the Bakken Shale or Marcellus Shale, all of a sudden we wake up in the Permian Basin's even more prolific than that. We have 250 years of natural resources below those shale plays, 250 years of reserves that could run this country for 250 years. We don't even have to be in the Middle East anymore. We don't have to be there anymore. We don't have to be captured by them. We have the big liquefied natural gas station being built in Lake Charles, which, by the way, they created 12,500 jobs in the last 4 years. 12,500 jobs. Now we have one coming to Plaquemine. There is some talk about one coming closer to us, but we'll see. The world changes, folks, and when it changes, we have to change with it. And if we're really smart, we have to get ahead of that change and be able to do well as it does that. Look, I thank you for having me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions after Senator Allain and the wisdom of the Senate.
Thank you, Representative Jones. Our next speaker will be Senator Bret.
Thank you, Sam, for leaving me sometime. That being said, listen, Sam and I, there are a lot of things that we differ on, but we really do work well together, and particularly when it comes to what is right and what is good for St. Mary Parish. We work extremely closely together, the capital outlay projects and everything else. Yes, there are some philosophical differences between us, but I want you to know that Sam, I enjoy working with Sam, and he really does a good job for you. So thank you, Sam. That being said, I'd like to take the privilege while I'm up here to re-recognize some of the people that were recognized today. Thompson, I've known Craig for damn near all my life. Served on St. Mary Bank Board with him for many, many years, along with Randy Battaglia at the time. And it's very encouraging not only to see that you're still here, but that you brought your son in, the longevity, and that's what we built this community on. So thank you for being here. Also, I'd like to take the privilege of saying that I got a chance to speak at the Beryl function the other day. You realize that this company started 140 years ago, it's still here. They have land holdings much greater everywhere else than in St. Mary Parish, but they started here, and their dedication in staying here and keeping their staff and their business and the main crux of their business in St. Mary Parish speaks very well for them, I think. And we really do owe them a debt of gratitude. I mean, their members may have been raised here, but they're all over the country. I got to talk to many of them at the function. And I mean, really a diverse group, very, very wealthy, very smart, and live pretty much all over the rest of the country. But they have kept their bases here in St. Mary Parish, and I really appreciate them for doing that, because without companies like them staying and having their longevity here in St. Mary Parish, we wouldn't be near as strong the parish as we are. Also, I'd like to say a little bit about Natalie and Harding and them taking over the Young Memorial. I see Mr. Singleton is here also, giving us his wisdom and encouragement. They're going to do a great job. I'm pleased that Lafayette is joining with us. Consolidation was going to happen. Otherwise, the only other alternative is if you couldn't stand alone, Young would have to be shuttered at some point. So the partnership with Lafayette, I think, is going to be a great fit. Do not mistake her size. She's a large ball of fire. And I've worked closely with her over many years, and she's going to do a great job for us. I also see the President Nichols here, Dr. Murphy. Your Nichols is very important to this region, and we thank you for everything we do. Let me talk, since Sam's already touched on it, let me give you my insight into PHI leaving. A lot of these companies feel that they have to do consolidation to survive. I don't blame them for that. I wish they would have considered us better to be their base of operations, but I get it. Listen, I work with Terrebonne. I represent a good part of Terrebonne Parish. I represent some of Lafourche Parish, a little bit of Iberia Parish. Terrebonne Parish has and continues to kick her butt. And I'm going to tell you why, in my humble opinion, because I work with both parish governments. They have consolidated many years ago. They don't have duplication of services, of police and fire and a lot of other things
They don't have duplication of services. They can take all of these savings and put them toward infrastructure to attract new businesses. It just started way back with the Home and Navigation Canal. That was the first when they started taking some of our business. But if we don't wake up and have a full-time parish president, the idea that our parish president makes $12,000 a year and is a part-time employee, while every parish around us has full-time parish presidents that are on airplanes going to talk to these companies all the time, and we wonder why we're getting our butts kicked? That's why. And if we don't wake up and change a few things, we're going to continue to lose. My personal opinion, people may argue with me, I think we've seen a little bit of consolidation effort by the parish government. I think that not only needs to be encouraged, but supported by us. I think it is the future. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody on that subject. State government. You might have heard we got a little bit of a budget problem. The governor's rollout, and listen, I just heard bits and pieces. I don't know exactly what he's going to bring out. But what we do know about the gross receipts tax, I have a few problems with. Number one, it's a pyramid. And I understand there may be an effort to accept agriculture out of this, but let me just give you my own business. Okay, so if we do gross receipts on what everybody sells grossly, not only all of my inputs, all of my fertilizers, all of my chemicals that I bring in and use, those people will pay a gross receipts tax, so they're going to have to up the price to me. When I make a crop and make raw sugar cane and deliver it to the mill, I'm going to pay gross receipts on that. The sugar mill makes it into raw sugar. They'll pay gross receipts on that. And the refinery that we own half of, that our sugar mill owns half of, when they make it into white sugar, they'll pay gross receipts on that, although it's a small amount. And then when the end user uses it and makes it into a product, bread, cookies, cakes, whatever it is, he's going to have the pleasure of paying gross receipts on that. It's the multiple times. Regardless of whether you make a profit or not, whether or not you have the ability to pay that tax, you will have to pay it. I think there's a better way. I understand that there are large corporations. I agree with Sam on that. There are large corporations here that over time have done a great job of lobbying. No indifference to them. They've done a great job of lobbying, and they built up these credits for certain things that they did or did in the past or whatever, and they're not paying any tax here. Much more can talk about or have a discussion about a minimum tax, corporate tax, that they would pay. Okay, you know, your corporate, you know, with all your deductions, your corporate tax is zero, but you have to pay a minimum for doing business in the state. That to me, you've heard the old adage, don't tax me, don't tax the guy behind the tree. Well, this is getting the guy behind the tree who's not paying anything right now. And I think that in fairness, that may work. I'd also like to, because they like to tout the Ohio model, I'd like to give you a little bit more about the Ohio model. They did gross receipts over there, and it seems to be working for them somewhat. Not everybody agrees. Obviously, there's some businesses there that don't. But they not only did away with corporate and franchise tax, they also did away with inventory tax and personal property tax in the same vein. So if we want to put the rest of those on the table too, and have a discussion about them, maybe gross receipts makes a little bit more sense. Now, not all the money went to the state. Some had to go to the locals to backfill it. But they did away with all four taxes. So let's be honest about the conversation we're having. Taxes on fuel, or road use tax. I think everybody agrees we got to do something about the roads. Infrastructure here has to be dealt with. But the main thing that I have problems with is, number two, they don't trust us to keep the money on roads and bridges. Okay, so that's a trust factor, and I get that. That's the same reason we got a lot of dedications, because you don't trust the legislature. So we dedicate money to this and that to where we can't do anything about it. But when it comes to managing it, And the job you send us up there to do with all these dedications and lockboxes, we can't do our job. So I agree with Representative Amedee. We gotta undedicate a lot of funds. And there has to be the trust factor. If we say we're gonna put it in roads and bridges, there has to be a mechanism that it can't be taken for anything else. Can't end up in the pocket of state police. It can't end up in anybody else's pocket. It has to go directly to construction of roads and bridges, and that's it. Now, you talk about this value, that value, and giving part of this penny of sales tax. You know, nobody's gonna mind paying or a lot of people, some will up front, but most people won't mind paying 15 or 18 or 20 cents a gallon while the price of gas is $2. But boy, when it gets up to $4, they're gonna be screaming at us. Why did you do that to us? And I don't have a good answer. Unless that I've suggested to the administration and our leadership that if we do this, it should be indexed to the price of gas. That way, that is 17 cents or whatever we agreed to while it's $2, but as it approaches $4, it starts rolling off. Indexing to where when it reaches $4, we're not charging the people anymore. That makes sense. That doesn't hurt the little guy who has to come up with the money. And I think it's a better approach. I know I've inserted that into some of the discussions we've had. Hopefully it takes hold. I do think there'll be some type of infrastructure bill, but how it ends up coming out of the process, I'm not quite sure. That being said, I think I covered everything, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Senator Allain. Do we have any questions? Yes.
I got a question for Representative Jones. The gross receipts tax would be revenue neutral, but most of your businesses, most in this room, are small businesses, sole proprietors, sub-S corporations, partnerships. We don't pay corporate tax now, so for us, it won't be neutral, it'll be an additional tax. Have y'all considered that?
It won't be neutral for every individual, every entity. The total take will be revenue neutral.
But I mean, it seems like it's gonna be the small businesses again with even more burden. The big corporations, they pay state tax, corporate tax, but then they got their exemptions to get out of it. They can't be a small business like us with a flow through where they get a K1, right? But most of us are that.
Look, I get it. I do it. That's the way I do it with my business. I understand that. But the big corporations actually don't. They have an army of lobbyists up there. I don't even know all their names, and I've been there for 15 years. I mean, every time I look up, they got a new group. Look, I'll tell you, this is how bad it is. AT&T, they can sue me if they want, I think. What can they get? AT&T wanted to change 150 years of franchising authority and take it away from local governments and bring it to the state level so that they could run into communities and not have to negotiate franchise agreements to be able to cut the roads and cut the ditches and put their wires down and everything else. They bought every known lobbyist in Baton Rouge on the year they wanted to do that, and they steamrolled that through. And they changed 150 years of franchise local government authority. I think you hear the horror stories about how effective the lobbyists are in Washington, and here in Washington, they're the great white sharks. You know, we just got small sharks here, but they're effective. I mean, and when they get their minds into it, it's nothing for them to go spend $3 million. I think that's what they spent to change that law. So that's why, I don't know if they're one of them, but that's why they don't pay any taxes, and they have these credits built up. I did mention that, and look, I'm not 100% sold on this either. If somebody's got a better mousetrap, bring it. But
But what's going on here with this, with $115 billion, we're technically bankrupt. If we got called on this, there's no way we could pay it, so we have to do something. I look forward to hearing from small businesses. That's why I talked about the exemption, $500,000, $750,000 even. I mean, that's not where the problem has been. So this is a work in progress. Anything you've heard here today, anything you read, call us. Call me, call Senator Allain. This thing's gonna be a tough thing to pass. I just don't, I don't know that the success of this is out there, but I mean, we have to do something. Maybe the minimum corporate income tax that Senator Allain talked about is the way to go. One more thing I did want to mention, I forgot. If we do put a transportation tax bill on the ballot, we're gonna name the projects. And I think, and that's the Buddy Roma model. Buddy Roma had his ups and his downs, but when he did the time program, I thought that was very effective, and over the years it's proven to be true. They named the program. One of the ones that I forgot to mention in there would be a set aside for dredging money for ports. And I know they left already? We have that problem in Morgan City with the Chapel River, but guess what? Everybody has it, and this federal government has abandoned us virtually on their responsibility to help us keep the waterways dredged at the proper depth. So that would be another item that would be added into that. And by the way, Senator Allain said we don't agree on everything, but today we did.
Yeah. No, listen, we agree on a lot. Just the approach should be taken. Listen, no doubt, Glenn, there'll be winners and losers. And that's the problem. My biggest problem is the ability to pay. You know, we're taxing people that could have substantial losses in a year. You know, you've seen the cane industry over the years, and many other industries, oil and gas is going through it now. There are a lot of years you don't make a profit. And what money is it gonna? You're gonna have to borrow additional capital to pay taxes that you didn't have to pay before. I think this is going to be a working process, and we'll figure out how we go along. Hopefully, some good ideas come out of this session. But I will reiterate, nobody is truly safe while we're in session.
By the way, we didn't talk about the alternative, the cuts. I mean, do we want to fund higher education anymore, or are we getting out of that business? Do we want to train the next generation of professionals, or are we getting out of that business? Do we want to fund TOPS at 100%, or are we getting out of that business? Do we want to continue to support our rural hospitals, like the ones we have in this parish, or are we getting out of that business? So we have to make that decision. Do we want a young memorial in Morgan City under SLCC? Do we want to get out of that business? You know, we can totally melt it down all the way, but Senator Allain and I had a conversation about that this weekend. You know, minimum foundation has had one increase in 9 years. One. How does the school board continue to operate, and we demand more of them, and we give them, they've lost about 11% inflation on the buying power of their dollar. So how do you make those choices?
Sure. I don't mean to butt in here, but I'd be more excited to make a couple comments, you know, primarily because the parish president was named a couple times. A couple things, if I may. A couple things I want to mention. First of all, PHI. On Friday afternoon, that's the first time I heard it, late that afternoon, PHI was actually potentially leaving the parish. And so naturally, that in itself is a problem, is that we found out that late. And they're a private organization, a private business, so of course they got together like they do with the board of directors, and they make these decisions, and they're not going to let these decisions out for fear of political pressure, which is what's happening right now. Now, on Monday, I called out to PHI, made several calls to make contact. Finally got contact on Tuesday. I talked to Lance Bosler, who's the president and chief operating officer of PHI, and he did commit to a meeting with myself. I mentioned that Mayor Kbze and some other individuals can actually attend that meeting, and they're open to that. I asked them point blank, what's happening? Is PHI leaving the parish? And of course, they gave me the same song and dance, basically stating that at this time, we're looking at consolidation throughout or company in times, you know, because of the environment. So the same memo they put out to everybody else is what we're getting. Senator Allain hit the point, hit the nail on the head. Consolidation is a big key. Right now, with the Parish Council, we consolidated 3 districts into one commission. And in fact, on April 29th, there's an election that will be taking place in Water and Sewer Commission number 3 on April 29th. And what I have to get across to the individuals that if this passes, probably 90% of the people in that district, the millage will go down. Okay, now that in itself is a pass. Because right now, there's no appetite out there whatsoever for new taxes. At all. We've seen it already throughout the parish. People are voting down just basic O&M villages to operate. And consolidation is the key. For 8 years, I've been trying to consolidate these 3 districts. 8 years on the parish council. And only until I was parish president was I successful with the new council we have right now. And moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, we have to do that. And people say, well, you're only saving a couple meals here, 2.5, 3 meals here. Well, the vision is this. It's not so much saving the millage just so I can give it back, which is great for businesses, because I own a small business. The thought process behind this is to 2 meals here, 3 meals here, $1.5 meals here. And then I'm going to go back to the individuals and the business people and say, let's invest in St. Mary Parish. Let's invest in our levees, our roads, our infrastructure, our economic development, and put together a team for St. Mary Parish. Because right now, I tell you, I don't know the numbers, but I bet you right now that the airport authority in Terre Haute is probably 4 times the size of our economic development in this parish. I can probably guarantee you that, because they are driven out. And they're getting bigger and bigger, and they're taking our companies. So if we don't get real about consolidation throughout the parish, and there's more to come, but I need your support. Okay, I need your support, I need the council support, and support of St. Mary Parish so we can move forward and save money, but take those savings and invest back in St. Mary Parish. So I appreciate everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
I text my cousins and my daughters this morning, and the school where I was, they all bombarded with the same question because they have kids in college. What about tops? Is it going to be funded?
Take your time.
If the legislature would have voted and supported Governor Edwards' budget proposal last year, it would have been 100% funded.
Yeah.
His budget this year is going to propose it to be 100% funded. Where I agree with Senator Allain, just don't trust the legislature, and I'm in there, I see them. It's not that I don't trust what they won't do, I know what they're gonna do, and it was not a priority. There were 3 votes in the House, and I voted every time to fund it 100%, every time. But I was in the minority, you know, and I believe the Senate wanted to fund it that way, but I'll let him speak for the Senate, but I think we agree on that one too.
We tried very hard, several meetings, and went actually to see the governor about funding tops at 100%. We ended up backfilling it or front loading it, if you will, to where the first semester was done completely. The second semester was only at about 50%. We had a proposal for the governor that would have fully funded tops. It would have delayed medical vendor payment. He refused to do that. So we ended up kind of at a stalemate, and we ended up where we are. Listen, I mean, I would love to fully fund tops. That's number 1 on the very top of my agenda. But we also have to have the revenues. You can't have it both ways. You can't tell us to cut and then refuse to pass the taxes. I mean, there has to be a balance right there. And not everybody, I fully want to fund tops, but not everybody out there. I've heard from many constituents that said that is not one of their priorities. We will try our best to fully fund tops and move some money around. Look, the executive budget that the governor has, the cuts that we just made, about 80% of the cuts that we just made were put back in, and we're not annualized. So when they talk about we're at a deficit of $440 million, and And that's what we're facing. There's money put back in there that we've already cut, and now it's back in there. Maybe it should be, maybe we should look at it, but the revenues the real growth in revenues is getting this economy started and getting people paying again, and that's where I think our emphasis should be. And we're not going to do it by overtaxing businesses that are out there.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
One question for Representative Jones. You mentioned the idea, or your idea of increasing the gas tax. Over 7 cents a gallon, is below 15 cents. But you also have sales tax. Is that on all items or entire gas?
No, that would be a general position.
General sales, two separate.
Look, I didn't wake up with that idea. They're doing that in Arkansas right now. They just didn't feel like that they could go up as many pennies on the gasoline as, and this is a way to get it done. Look, I-49 is gonna be in there to finish it. A new bridge in Baton Rouge, which, that's a disaster in itself, trying to get over that bridge. It takes an hour to get it done. A new bridge in Lake Charles, high-speed rail from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. Some issues in North Louisiana. I think it's, I think we would be failing in our duty to not at least put it before the people who will be the final decision maker. If they want it, they'll vote for it. If they don't want it, they'll vote against it, and I can live with that. Well, the way I'm drawing up the, we do, and that's the problem I have with that. Look, I was mayor here for 22 years. I proposed 2 taxes. One was a sales tax, one was for 0.3% for police and fire. It passed overwhelmingly. One was a 5 mil tax for fire department. I thought people were going to pass that, and they didn't. You know, that people are discerning. They have an idea in their mind what they're willing to pay and how they're willing to pay for it. If you give them somewhat of a menu to do that, and I was thinking on my way here. This is my 40th anniversary of being in this building at an event like this and announcing I was running for mayor of Franklin. 40 years. That's longer than Moses was in the desert, and he had to die to get out. I have never been for term limits until now. Because I plan to walk out and leave this to Senator Allain. But I learned some things over that time, and I think that you trust the voters. That's what makes us a great country we are. We go out in the streets and protest and not go to jail. Do it in Russia. They shoot people in front of the Kremlin if they don't agree with it. I mean, I have no fear whatsoever to put something like that before the people and live with the consequences of it. And I think that mix kind of spreads it around. The 0.5% would produce 400 million. The 7 cents would produce another 200 roughly, and gets us to the number that we think we need to really attack the problem with our system.
You were right about one thing. We could just pass the tax, but it takes 2/3. Logistically, it takes 2/3 for us to pass a tax, and it takes 2/3 for a constitutional amendment or anything else. So why not let the people decide ultimately? Yeah, we can do it on our own with 2/3, but it takes the same 2/3 to put it in front of voters. So I agree with saying that. Well, I don't agree in the 0.5 cents of the sales tax going toward roads, but I'm open to listen to any proposal. But as far as when a tax comes, I think most taxes should go in front of people. That's just should be a mechanism that should happen. I agree with him on that. No, on the 0.5 cents, him and I are going to talk.
Thank y'all. And thank y'all for taking time out of your day to be with us and your continued support of the chamber. We look forward to seeing y'all at our next chamber event. So come and enjoy our